It was almost midnight on August 11th, 2024, when Emily Borgwardt received the text from her husband. "I'll start heading back to shore soon," Ryan wrote from somewhere on Green Lake, Wisconsin. She went to bed assuming he'd be home any minute from his late-night kayaking and fishing trip. When she woke up the next morning and Ryan still wasn't there, her stomach dropped. His phone went straight to voicemail. He hadn't called, hadn't texted. It was completely unlike him. At 5:32 in the afternoon on August 12th, Emily called 911. Her 45-year-old husband, a father of 3, had vanished. But before we dive into today's story, if you love mysteries that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about the people around you, then you're in the right place. Because that's exactly what we cover here. And I upload new stories 3 to 4 times every week. So if that interests you, please gently tap the like button and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future uploads. All right, let's get into today's story, which takes place in Green Lake, Wisconsin in August 2024. Ryan Borgwardt was a married father of 3 living in Watertown, Wisconsin, about 50 miles east of Green Lake. To his neighbors and friends, he seemed like an ordinary middle-aged dad. He was involved in his kids' lives. They were teenagers and grade schoolers, and he'd been married to Emily for 22 years. The family attended church together. Ryan worked as a contractor, self-employed, doing projects around the area. On the surface, everything looked perfectly normal. But underneath that ordinary exterior, Ryan had been planning something extraordinary for months. Something that would tear his family apart and cost his community tens of thousands of dollars in a desperate search for a man who was never actually in danger. Green Lake is the deepest natural lake in Wisconsin, plunging down 237 feet at its deepest point. Ryan knew this. In fact, he'd specifically researched it. He'd spent months reading articles about people who'd successfully disappeared. He'd studied lake deaths and drownings. He'd learned that at certain depths, bodies don't always resurface. He'd investigated how to move money to foreign banks. He'd applied for and received a second passport in May, just 3 months before his disappearance. He'd taken out a $375,000 life insurance policy back in January. He'd even reversed his vasectomy, and he'd been communicating almost daily with a woman from Uzbekistan, someone he'd met online. Everything was planned, every detail thought through. And on the night of August 11th, Ryan put his plan into action. Here's what really happened that night. Ryan drove from Watertown to Green Lake about an hour northwest, towing a small kayak. But he also brought something else with him that nobody knew about. A child-sized inflatable boat and an electric bicycle, which he'd hidden near the boat launch earlier. Around 10 or 11 at night, Ryan paddled out onto the dark lake. He went to an area he'd chosen carefully. Then he overturned his kayak. He pulled out his phone and texted his wife that reassuring message about heading to shore. And then he threw his phone into the deep water. He carefully arranged his life jacket to float near the capsized kayak. He dumped his wallet, his keys, his driver's license into a tackle box and left it where it would be found. Then he climbed into the small inflatable boat and paddled back to shore, staying low and quiet in the darkness. Once on land, Ryan deflated the boat, grabbed the hidden e-bike, and started riding. For the next 7 hours, he pedaled 70 miles through the Wisconsin night, heading toward Madison. Most people would have gotten tired. Most people would have turned back. Ryan said later that he asked himself countless times during that ride, "Why am I doing this?" But he kept going. At dawn, he arrived in Madison and ditched the bike. He boarded a bus to Detroit. From Detroit, he crossed into Canada by bus. Canadian Border Security ran his name on August 13th, just 2 days after he disappeared, but they let him through. The guard asked him questions that seemed suspicious in hindsight. "Are you married? Is everything okay? Do you have a mortgage? Are you up to date on your mortgage?" Ryan lied his way through it all. From Canada, he boarded a plane to Paris. From Paris, he flew to an unnamed country in Asia. An unidentified woman picked him up at the airport. They spent several days together in a hotel. Then Ryan made his way to his final destination, the country of Georgia. Meanwhile, back in Wisconsin, panic was setting in. Deputies found Ryan's overturned kayak floating in Green Lake on the morning of August 12th. They found his car and trailer parked at a nearby boat launch. 2 fishermen discovered his fishing rod along the shore. Then they found the tackle box with all his personal belongings inside: wallet, keys, license. Everything pointed to a tragic drowning. The Green Lake County Sheriff's Office immediately launched a massive search operation. They deployed boats with sonar equipment. They brought in professional divers. They used drones to scan the lake from above. They even brought in 3 cadaver dogs. A volunteer organization called Bruce's Legacy, which specializes in recovering drowning victims, spent 28 straight days searching the lake. Keith Cormican from that organization devoted nearly a month of his life looking for a man who wasn't there. The cost climbed higher every day. Equipment expenses, wages for the search teams. The county eventually spent between $35,000 and $40,000 trying to find Ryan Borgwardt's body. But there was no body to find. On October 7th, nearly 2 months into the search, investigators got their first clue that something wasn't right. They discovered that Ryan's name had been run by Canadian law enforcement on August 13th. Why would a man who supposedly drowned in Wisconsin on August 11th show up in Canada 2 days later? Detectives obtained Ryan's laptop from his wife and handed it to a digital forensics expert. What they found was shocking. Ryan had replaced the hard drive on his laptop on the day of his disappearance. He'd cleared all his browser history, but some data had been synced to the cloud before he wiped it. The forensic analysis revealed everything: photos of his passport, searches about moving money to foreign banks, a changed email address, and communication with a woman in Uzbekistan. Regular, ongoing messages. The $375,000 life insurance policy. The second passport. Sheriff Mark Podol called a press conference on November 8th. "Due to these discoveries of the new evidence," he announced, "we were sure that Ryan was not in our lake." But here's where it gets even stranger. Detectives tracked down the woman Ryan had been talking to online and made contact with her. Through her, they were able to reach Ryan himself on November 11th. He was shocked. "When I got the email from authorities," Ryan later admitted, "my heart hit the floor. He thought he was untouchable, hidden somewhere in Eastern Europe where extradition would be complicated. He'd been using a VPN to check news articles about his disappearance, making it look like he was in Russia rather than Georgia. He knew that Georgia had specific extradition rules that might protect him. He'd planned for everything, but he hadn't planned on the determination of Sheriff Podol and his team." On November 21st, Sheriff Podol held another press conference and played a video that Ryan had sent. In the grainy footage, a tired-looking man in an orange t-shirt stood in a sparse apartment. The camera briefly panned around, showing bare walls and a door. "I am safe, secure, no problem," Ryan said in the video. But he wouldn't reveal his exact location. Over the next weeks, detectives stayed in daily contact with Ryan, pleading with him to come home. They told him about the pain his family was going through, They explained the legal consequences he'd be facing. They appealed to his conscience. "Ryan, I beg you, give me a call," Sheriff Podol said in a public video message. "Work this out." And eventually, after 4 months living in Georgia with his online girlfriend, Ryan made a decision. On December 9th, he recorded a video showing himself on an airplane taking off, heading back to the United States. He landed on December 11th and immediately turned himself in at the Green Lake County Justice Center. When he appeared in court on December 12th, a judge asked if he could afford bail. "I have $20 in my wallet," Ryan answered. He was charged with obstructing an officer. His wife filed for divorce. 4 days after Ryan returned, Emily submitted paperwork calling their 22-year marriage irretrievably broken. She requested sole custody of their 3 children. In court during his sentencing on August 26, 2025, Ryan finally spoke about why he did it. "I deeply regret the actions that I did that night, and all the pain that I caused my family and friends," he said. Prosecutors revealed that Ryan had told detectives he felt like a failure in about every aspect of his life. Though both the prosecution and defense recommended 45 days in jail, the judge had a different idea. He sentenced Ryan Borgwardt to 89 days, 1 day for each day he'd deceived everyone. Ryan also had to pay back the full $30,000 in restitution to Green Lake County. Ryan Borgwardt's elaborate escape plan remains one of the most bizarre disappearances in recent Wisconsin history. For a man who researched everything so carefully, he made one crucial miscalculation. One of the things that he said was he didn't expect us to go more than 2 weeks in searching for him, Sheriff Podol revealed. "Well, I hate to tell you, you picked the wrong sheriff and the wrong department. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, I've got another case about someone who went to extreme lengths to escape their old life that you need to see. Click the video on your screen right now about that investigation, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see ya.